Hello and welcome to another episode of Casting Reflections on Black Mirror. The sub-series of Casting Views, as it says, takes an episode of Black Mirror and casts views on it. Now, for a series that is normally so focused on tech and things like that, I was just saying, having a rant to my guests, and that's plural. I think I've had enough of technology this week, and we'll go into it shortly, but just to elaborate on that further. So as normal, I've got my co-host Dan S with me. Hi, Dan.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, frustrated, but very well. But excitingly, we've got a guest for us, a one-time guest on this series so far. We've got Colin from Seismic Cinema. Hi, Colin.
Hello. I wouldn't get too excited. It's just me.
Been looking forward to getting you on the show from after I appeared on yours. So, tell you what, before I go into my rant, and then before we go into the episode, do you want to just tell the lovely people listening a little bit about yourself and your pod?
As you said, I'm Colin from Seismic Cinema. So I've actually left James and Paul to do our pod tonight to come on here. So there you go.
Oh, what an
Have
honour.
you? Oh, sorry,
So,
guys.
it's the very first one I've not been on. So we do a movie and TV podcast on a range of different things. We sometimes do rankings. We've recently started dabbling in football as well. So we're doing a Seismic Soccer once a month special. Yeah, and that's about it. So yeah, check us out on the usual places.
Definitely do. I joined Seismic Cinema for it was Karate Kid, wasn't it?
And I wore my gi.
Yeah, you were proper decked out in the gear. And obviously we've got the football connection because Dan and I co-host Just Football, so we'll have to work something out, some sort of a friendly match, seeing as we've got you on a loan deal from the night from your normal pod. So Dan, yeah, we've got to be a bit more professional after my shambolic start to this now because we're keeping Colin from his own podcast tonight.
It's my choice. I want Paul and James to fly solo so I can take the odd day off now and again.
See if they can cope.
I'm not going to mention names, so I sent the link out to you two to record, and because I had a bit of a painful recording or post production of the recording, I should say, on my last episode, I thought I'd sit down early tonight to get everything set up properly. I logged on, and my recording platform of choice has decided tonight I'm not allowed to record, so I've had to quickly get a free trial to something else, and yeah, hence the what was it? I think 3 minutes before recording time, sending you a message to say no, don't do that, do this. So we're all here now. That's the main thing.
Okay, I was only sitting in the lobby in the other one for 5 minutes.
Well, look, we're all here now. That's the main thing. So we're here, and you are here as well, Colin, because we are discussing San Junipero, season 3, episode 4. And I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I remember you saying to me, I think this was one of your favourite episodes, right?
Yes, I know. It's also the first one I ever saw. One of my best pals. I was down visiting him, and he was working in Stranraer for a year. Don't know why. And then he just randomly showed me it with no context. And then I went back and I watched the very first episode with the Prime Minister. And funny enough, at that time, I didn't continue any further. And it was years later. I went back to it and I watched it all and fell in love with the show. If you can fall in love with Black Mirror, that is.
Do you think you had to have a break because you were disturbed at the Prime Minister episode? Did it kind of put you off, or was it just didn't get round to watching it?
I don't think it put me off. I think I just got distracted by other things I was watching. And
Yeah.
I just so happened, because I'd really liked San Junipero, and then I just kind of watched it the whole way through. But I'm a big fan now. I've even got a book. It's called, I can't remember what it's called. It's like all about the making of Black Mirror, seasons 1 to 4.
Oh, okay.
If I'd had a bit more time this week, I would have reread the chapter on this episode. So it's a really good book, though. It was about £20 on Amazon, and it really goes into detail in all the episodes. I think you would probably like it as well.
It's an interesting way of getting into it because San Junipero, as we're going to, no spoilers yet, is very different in tone, isn't it, to the national anthem? And that is a hell of a first episode, the national anthem, as we kind of said on our show. So yeah, it's a real, what's the word, opposites there, your introduction to the show.
Well, I think that was probably my friend's favourite episode, so that's why he showed me that one. Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, yeah. But yep, here we are. So as mentioned, so obviously spoilers for San Junipero, but again, it's what do we say? It's 7 years old now, and it's still really good. So watch it, whatever the three of us get up to saying. Written by Charlie Brooker, directed by Owen Harris, who also directed Be Right Back. Brooker said he wrote the script in 4 days. The actress who plays Kelly had heard of the show but had not seen it, and when she watched it, ironically, she also watched Be Right Back before the shoot. Mackenzie Davis, who plays Yorkie, first saw the show with a friend who had pirated it, and they watched the national anthem. And San Junipero was the first script produced for Series 3, written by Charlie Brooker, as a conscious decision to change the series. So the show previously focused on negative effects, but anyway, feels like we're slowly getting into spoilers here. So Dan, it's your turn. And I was actually saying to someone the other day that I was a bit annoyed the way this has fallen because I get Shut Up and Dance, and then you get San Junipero to describe. But we got to be fair. So, yeah, over to you for the episode recap.
Cool. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, the show's based around a friendship which is created between a girl called Yorkie and a girl called Kelly. Yorkie, I thought, was a pretty cool name. So not one I'm familiar with, but I did write that down. So it starts off with Yorkie, who's going into a nightclub in this place called San Junipero. She's quite plainly dressed, and she goes into this nightclub, and she's obviously quite uncomfortable with who she is. She gets chatted up. Some guy tries to chat her up, and she's obviously very, very nervous and kind of makes excuses and kind of walks away. I did make a note because I thought this was a cool game, but she was at an arcade machine and they were playing Bubble Bobble. I don't know if you played that when you were younger, but I played that a lot when I was younger. So I've written down those words. She's then joined at the table by Kelly, who is avoiding a guy, and they pretend they're in a friendship. And quite severely, she makes up a lie that she's dying within 6 months. Therefore, they have to talk and friendship. But I'm guessing that comment at the time felt quite severe, but I'm guessing as you go later on and circle back to it, you realise it's not quite as severe as it is.
And the only other thing I'd say is this club is very 80s, the look, feel, and the music.
So they begin to strike up a friendship, they talk, have a few drinks, go on the dance floor, and it gets to a point where Yorkie feels really uncomfortable. So she storms outside and is later joined by Kelly. Kelly flirts with her and touches her and makes a point of knowing that she is interested in something happening between the two. But then Yorkie says that she's engaged and looks to leave. But as she's leaving, I think she's then regretful of her decision as then Kelly goes into the club. And then we kind of go away and we are now 1 week later and you see Yorkie getting ready and trying to get dressed up. And it looks like she's trying to get dressed up to impress. She tries loads of different styles on, then kind of reverts back to a plainish look. But at that point, it's clear it's from a different decade, isn't it? We're now in, she's dressed, what is, we're 70s? Is she dressed up in?
I think it's still the 80s, but I think she's just dressed more. She's just dressed more in keeping, I think, isn't she?
I'm a 90s kid, so I'm stuck till later on.
Oh, well, this is a big thing for me was I just loved this bit because the soundtrack, which I'll come on to after, but this was me all over.
So she goes back into this nightclub and she watches Kelly flirt with some other guy, but obviously jealous of what's happening. She kind of follows around the club, remains in her eye distance or eyesight, and they keep catching each other's eyes. As Kelly goes to the loo, Yorkie gets up and joins her. They end up spending a night together. But Yorkie kind of makes quite a few comments about, you have to show me what to do, to kind of really kind of emphasize how inexperienced she is. And then Kelly kind of says, but you're engaged to be married. Have you not slept with anyone or have you not kissed anyone? And it comes out that she hasn't. And it kind of gets left there without really explaining how that can be when she's about to get married.
She says it's complicated, doesn't she?
Yeah, she says it's complicated. Then it kind of goes 1 week later and Yorkie is looking for Kelly, but she can't find her. And this happens a few weeks in a row. And it's at this point, isn't it, where every time she goes back, she's in a different era, whereas the fashion has changed, the arcade games that she keeps going to see are different depending on the decade that it's kind of meant to represent.
I think that comes a bit later. I think what we see at the moment is every time the clock is getting to midnight, it
Yeah.
jump cuts. It jump cuts to a week later, doesn't it? So I think it's still in the 80s for a bit. And then, like you said, it's when she can't find her. She bumps into the man that was trying to chat Kelly up,
Yeah.
and he says, "Try a different time." He goes, "She was here in the 80s, 90s, and 2002 one time."
Ah, okay, yeah.
It's amazing how differently you see once you know the end, it's a totally different episode because the first time I watched it, you didn't really clock what was going on. You
Yeah.
felt there was something off, but you didn't really clock what was going on.
I think I'm really poor at identifying fashions. So, the whole 70s, 80s, 90s, I think merges into one for me when it comes to fashion. I think the only time I really grasped that they were in different eras is when the video games started upgrading. And, she ended up playing Dance Star, didn't she?
There's all sorts of weird things. So right at the start in the 80s, you saw Max Headroom on the TV as well. And like I said, there was a film. What was the film? Lost Boys was the poster or a film in the 80s. And then I can't remember what they had for the 90s, but Colin, yeah, that's a really good
Was it
point.
on Scream?
Scream, that's it. Yes, it
Scream was
was. Yeah, yeah,
90s. And
yeah.
then there was another one in the 2000s.
Yeah. And it's a good point to say because like I said, at the moment, if you then go back, it feels quite heavy handed because there's the whole 11:59 cut-offs. There's a couple of things where they're speaking and I think Yorkie asked Kelly how long she's been in San Junipero and she says a couple of months, just enough to want to enjoy herself, and she's a tourist like Yorkie. So you think, okay, they could be tourists in their own country. There's all these kind of little clues, isn't there? And then when the guy says, yeah, try the 80s, 90s, or 2002, that's a big.
Yeah. And it's at that point, isn't it, where she finds her in the 2000s and Kelly's playing Dance Star? Is that what that game's called? Some sort of dancing
Dance
arcade.
Revolution, yeah.
Dance Revolution.
Dance Man.
I knew you would know what it
It was
was.
called
Colin looks like he's had a couple of goes on that as well.
not very
Yeah,
successful
I'm not
though.
sure I'd be too great. I think once you get in a model with that stuff, there's no going back.
So,
But anyway, then they have an argument, and Kelly runs off into the bathroom and actually smashes a mirror. But when she kind of looks away and then it pans back round again, the mirror's fixed. And I think it's at that point where you think this isn't right. It's
something's up.
quite clear something's up. And then Yorkie goes to the roof, and Kelly comes out to find her. Kelly goes to the top of the building and they talk again, have a heart to heart. And there's one comment that I kind of highlighted was when I think it was Yorkie that said it when she's looking down on these people is how many of them are dead or how many of them are visiting. And it's that kind of comment. I think I actually felt like I needed to wind it back to just clarify exactly what she said at that point.
I watched it this morning before work, and yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
There was another really key thing she said, though.
go
So,
on.
as you said, Yorkie's sitting on the edge of the roof. Kelly goes up and she goes, please tell me you've got your pain slider set to 0.
Oh, see, I didn't clock that.
So that's another real at that point again, you know something's up, obviously.
Yeah. But it all kind of reveals itself in a few minutes, doesn't it? It goes from
Yeah,
normal to
yeah.
actually this different world in a few minutes. Then they end up spending the night together again, this time on a hut on the beach. Or was it? I can't remember if that's the same as the first time. But anyway, it was a hut on the beach where they
I think it
spent
was
the
the
night together.
same. I think it was the same place.
It was the same place, yeah. Yorkie claims that she's going to go through with this wedding with Greg, despite what's happening. And at this point, we don't really know who Greg is. We just know it's someone she's not been intimate with in the past. And then they start talking and kind of revealing who they both are, don't they? And Kelly kind of claims that she's dying, or yeah,
Got 3 months left, I think.
yeah,
She
3 months left. That's right. So they agree to meet in real life, but Yorkie is really, really reluctant to let that happen. But they realise they're quite situated close. I think it's at this point you kind of realise that actually this is a fake universe and their real selves are elsewhere somewhere, and inside this San Junipero world. They agree to meet in real life. Yorkie's reluctant, so Kelly travels, and you get to see the real Kelly at this point, who's an older lady, who's in a home of some sort, and she goes to this medical facility where Yorkie is in a coma and is kind of just being kept alive at this point. And at this point, you meet Greg, who is her carer. That's right, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
Greg kind of states that she's been in this state for about 40 years. She had quite a big trauma when she was younger because she told her parents she was gay or something, and the parents didn't accept it.
Just two things there. Yeah. So just before that bit, when they're still in San Junipero and they're talking about where they are, and Yorkie says, "You wouldn't like me if you met me," and she asks Kelly, "Are you going to stay here after?" And Kelly says, "No. When she's done, she's done." She goes, "She says she lost her husband 2 months ago, and he didn't want to stay in San
That's
Junipero."
right, yeah.
Yeah. So there's that, and then yeah, as you said, it's revealed that Yorkie came out to her parents when she was 20. They sound like they're obviously very strict. I'm going to guess it's what? Well, we don't know what year it is in the real world, but it was at a time where they didn't obviously agree. They had a massive argument, and then she had a car crash, didn't she?
Yeah.
And she's been in this state, a paraplegic state, for 40
It's a
years.
long time for her to be in the coma. You wonder, was there ever any hope that she'd come out of it, or was
Yeah.
it just, is that what it was? I mean,
It's scary. It's hard for us to kind of contemplate what that's kind of like, isn't it? It's a difficult one.
Well, we know the family have got something to do with that, which well, we'll let Dan carry on. But there's a family element there, isn't there? So
There is a family element, and her parents or her family kind of, I don't know if they just disowned her or angry at her when she kind of came out as gay when she was younger. And the whole reason for marrying Greg is because a spouse can override the euthanasia decision, which is obviously what Yorkie wants to do at this point. And maybe it is a case of there is no hope of her coming out of it, and she wants to be put to sleep, and the only way to do that is to get married. And it's a marriage of convenience, isn't it? Greg's agreed to do it.
what
Um,
you need three people to sign off on euthanasia in that world. You needed the doctor, the patient, and a family member, and the family member said no. And it's the reason being is to stop people preferring San Junipero to the real world. So the family refused. So again, you kind of get, well, I kind of imagine there's religious overtones to this, along with the, their anger at her coming out and the fact that they
yeah,
won't sign off on the euthanasia.
yeah, yeah, agreed. And I think the other point that was mentioned at this point is there's a 5 hour weekly limit in San Junipero, which is why each of the not flashbacks, but each of the whole 1 week later was kind of the start of their 5 hour slot that they could be in this place. But Kelly at this point took it upon herself to kind of re-enter the world and have a conversation with Yorkie and say, well, why don't we get married? And I'll do it, I guess, to a point where it can be a bit more special for her and they can kind of do that together. Kelly and Yorkie then get married in the real world. And then Yorkie is then helped to pass over. I think that's the term, isn't it? Passing through. I can't remember. Was it passing through or passing over?
I think it may have been. I think it may have been through.
Yeah, I think it was through.
Or,
But now when I think about the English of that word, passing over makes more sense. But I think I've just made that up. But yeah, so then she was helped to pass through into San Junipero, where she is now there full time, and she's obviously really, really excited. I don't know if you both noticed that it felt like the colours got brighter and a bit more real in this world. So it's obviously a bit more of a different experience for her once she's there.
Well, another key thing there, which was subtle, is
Go on in.
because they said they had these 5 hour limits and it was midnight. She says she's never been there in daylight before, and it was
Yes, yeah.
because it was the first time they'd gone there during the day.
So then Kelly comes and joins her in her 5 hour slot. Yorkie's trying to convince her to, after having an amazing time together, Yorkie tries to convince her to pass through and be with her permanently. They have a bit of an argument, and then they begin to elaborate on why Kelly was originally reluctant to come there full time. Whereas Yorkie kind of made out that her husband was being selfish and kind of, not liking her, wanting to spend eternity with her. She then elaborates, well, actually, it's because we had a child and we were together 50 years and our child passed away. And if he didn't want to spend eternity in a world where his child wasn't, and that's why he chose not to go to San Junipero. So she's kind of been left behind to grieve a husband who chose not to. And probably with good reason, and her child that kind of passed away as well.
Daughter died before San Junipero was a thing. So he said,
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a world where she couldn't live.
That conversation was really intense because, on one hand, Yorkie's been really selfish, trying to get Kelly to do something she really doesn't want to do. But then you've got this person who's been in a coma for 40 years who just wants to have a bit of happiness. So you could really see it from both sides.
And yeah, because I think you're right. Because Yorkie, because when I first heard that argument, I thought, God, Yorkie, you're being really selfish. But actually, when you say it like that, it's like, actually, she's quite naive because she went into that coma when she was 20. So she's still probably a young adult at heart. And she's just experienced this new lease of life and doesn't really understand, does she? She's not really been an adult before.
Like I said, and Colin, that's spot on. She's not had a life. I
Yeah.
think they said she was 20 when she entered that state. So for 40 years, she's just lay in a bed. And now she's got this playground that she can live her life in. I think that was intentionally done, to make you to feel like maybe, that Yorkie was selfish all along. Because at first, Kelly was kind of the one, it looked like she was leading her on and playing games with her, wasn't it? So you kind of think, is she the one who's leading Yorkie on?
And I'm not even convinced although it gives you the happy ending, I don't know if I really like that was the decision, because one minute she's totally against it and then suddenly all for
Yeah,
it.
Dan, just give the ending then, and we'll dissect it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess after a bit of thinking and, Yorkie being in this world by herself, then Kelly returns and has passed over. And then they do have this happy ending where they spend, I guess, eternity together. But I think I'm a little bit like you, Colin. I feel like I kind of wished it was the other way, where she kind of...
She just abandoned her principles for a summer romance.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it's probably because they were trying to have that happier ending because it was a change of tone.
Yeah.
If it had been a normal Black Mirror episode, she would have went, nope, see you later.
Well, and just one thing, the final thing you see in it is these robots, don't you? So you see a wall of lights, and basically each resident in San Junipero is basically on a computer server now, right? That's what it is. They've got a number on a wall of lights, and that's how it ends. So, Colin, what are some thoughts from you then generally about the episode, and what would you pick
Got a lot
out?
of thoughts. One, I'm really rubbish at working out what's happening in shows like this until, see, once I know the ending, I'm able to spot all the clues. But see, but it was actually quite a few years ago I watched it, so I don't actually remember what I really felt at the time. I just remembered really enjoying the soundtrack
Yes.
and just enjoying the uplifting vibe, and I thought good characterization. It's quite funny. We were talking about football earlier, and there's quite a funny football link to this episode.
I didn't catch a football link. Go on.
See, the heaven is a place on earth. It's the song that our midfielder John Lundstrom. The fans have a song about it.
I see. I wouldn't know.
They
that.
changed it to John Lundstrom's the greatest on earth, like the end of the line. So that happened after the fact, but it's I do love that song though. It's an anthem.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I agree with you, and we'll come on to scores right at the end. But I remember, Dan, I messaged you, didn't I, straight after, and I was saying initially...
You had a strong reaction to this, and I think at some point you backtracked.
I was thinking a straight 10. Now, I'm gonna defend myself and say there was two things. One, Colin, like you said, I thought the scene between Kelly and Yorkie, the argument, I thought that was brilliant. The revelation about her husband and the daughter, I thought was brilliant. But for me, the soundtrack was just amazing. I love this soundtrack, and I didn't necessarily pick everything out, but I think it's really cleverly done as well. So Heaven in a Place on Earth is so obvious, right? I mean, San Junipero is heaven on earth. And I think I got something somewhere. I think Charlie Brooker said he would pay whatever it was to get the rights to that song. He had to when he heard it. He was out jogging. What else have you got? I had, Living in a Box, which is right on the nose with the fact they are in little servers, that they're living in servers. You've got Need You Tonight by NXS. You've got Lean on Me. You've got Robert Palmer, Addicted to Love, which, she was because it was her first relationship. To Power, Your Dreams of China in Your Hand. Each song for me And maybe I'm looking too far into it, but it's so related to this episode. And they're all really top tunes as well.
It will be intentional, I would say.
So I was on a bit of a soundtrack high when I text Dan saying it was going to be 10, but it's still a high score, but we'll come on to that after.
I think it's got the interesting concept, and I was about to ask your views on it, is the whole digital eternal afterlife. And, you know, if you were, I think it's a bit different for Yorkie because she obviously hasn't lived a life and it's her chance to live a life. But if you lived a full life, I was thinking to myself, it's a risk. Like, it's a risk. It is a risk committing to one city for eternity, not the rest of your life, for eternity. And I was thinking, even like the greatest holidays I've ever been on, if someone said to me, I don't know, go and spend time in Gran Canaria for eternity, I'd be like, I'm not saying that was a great holiday, by the way. I've just realised what I've just said. But eternity is just a risk. And I'm not sure I could handle the concept of it.
Funny you mentioned that, Dan, because I watched this morning, and when I was in work, one of my colleagues in my department walked past the door.
Yeah.
He just walked to the room, and I just went to him. I was like, "Would you choose death or living in a virtual reality?" And he looked at me and he went, "Virtual reality." He's like, I'd be scared of FOMO, fear of missing out." But it's funny watching that episode, and I think most people are scared of death, I would say.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would choose the San Junipero option, because especially if you've, like Kelly, you've been married 40 years and then, like, as you say, it's a risk and then there's no escape. Well, did they not say there was an escape? Like, you can, like, essentially pull the plug on yourself. Is that?
No, they didn't. They didn't say that, did they? If that was an option,
I'm sure I heard something like that.
Yeah, if that was an option, you might reconsider, wouldn't you?
Did Yorkie not say it's not permanent? Like, you can.
Can't remember that now. My point of view is, so I wanted to hear you two first. Is it actually you though? It's your thoughts and memories, isn't it? It's
It's a
your
bit like the Be Right Back Twitter feed.
yeah. Anything like this is technically, I would say, it's not you, is it? It's your memories just coming to life.
Yeah,
It's not
true.
memories really if it's new, because you'd never met Kelly before.
But what I mean is, it's a digital representation of you. So there's again, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's that element of, you know, we humans, like, we believe it's the soul that makes us as kind of unique in that. And I was thinking, if you're just
So
downloaded into a
you
system,
don't think the soul's in there. So you think there's a risk that actually it's just a robot that's based on your memories.
not a robot. I think
soul.
it's just, you know, it's like anything. Like when people say we're going to go off a whole tangent here, like teleportation. If you've been teleported, is it really you? Because you've been deconstructed and reconstructed, technically. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, it, you know, you say you're living forever, but it's not. It's yeah, it's your memories put into an avatar, I guess.
I kind of view it differently. Like, I feel like they're leaving the body behind, but the conscious is there, because I don't know how to expand on that, but that's how I feel.
I mean, if you could do, but again, we're going back to that. Say, if you could pull the plug. I mean, again, that's what a conversation, isn't it? Is it like, yeah, I'm just going to pull the plug on myself in here? That just feels weird as well, right?
That's digital suicide, isn't it? Like, is that is that how you would view it?
Well, I guess they must have somebody watching, and it must be a case of, yeah, to sort of turn me off. It's a weird thing. I mean, I'd love to experience it just from the point of view, because there was that scene, wasn't it, where she was trying to get ready and the music would change. Like, remember Robert Palmer's song played and she looked like one of the women from the backing dancers in that. You could just change how you look at a whim like that. I'd probably be a lot less injury prone in San Junipero than I'm in real life.
Yeah, you might not need the medical insurance anymore. But
Yeah.
it's also so talking about like just being in the same place forever. It's also a risk being with the same person for eternity, and it's not like she's continuing her 40-year relationship with someone. It's like you said, it's like a summer romance. It's, you know, and the summer romance is like exciting and fresh, and there's a honeymoon period. But she might get a few months down the line and realise there's red flags appearing all over the place, I think, I need to get out of this.
What if she claps when the plane lands?
Say that again, sorry?
I said, what if it turns out she claps when the plane lands?
Oh, they still do that, didn't they? But without being morbid, though, there's always new people entering, right? And like she said, she disappeared. She couldn't find her for a few weeks. So you can go to any time at any point in time. No, you can go to any point in time at any time. So you can hide. She
Yeah, I
hid from
guess
her
so.
for a couple of weeks.
That's like the world's biggest game of hide and seek, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a question for both of you. Where would your San Junipero be if you could go to like one city or one country
Oh,
forever? Where would it be?
you know what? I don't know. I'd like to. It's probably somewhere I've not been, but I'd quite like the idea of like an island type summery place. But then I
Gran
think to
Canaria.
myself, not Gran Canaria, no, something a bit more exotic. But when I think about would I rather just be in a big city?
I'm going to say
I'm not.
Vegas.
I'm not. Vegas.
Yeah.
I'd rather be by the water.
Yeah, yeah. I think by the water, like a retirement type thing.
I basically live in a retirement-like thing.
I'd say Vegas. I'd need to keep active. You got the games, the casinos. Yeah, you could
But
all the virtual
Vegas,
money.
I went to Vegas for like 8-9 nights, and that was about 4 nights too long. Like I think you'd get bored in Vegas.
No, but I could go to 60s Vegas. I could go to then 80s Vegas. I could hang out with Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. Go to old Vegas when old Vegas was the new Vegas. Yeah.
I think you'd regret it.
I think something like Venice could be quite fun.
Yeah,
Just zoom out in the boats all the time.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Gondolas, not the boats. Yes. It's an interesting thought, though. Where would you go?
Yeah,
Let us know. Tweet us now.
You can have it. I'll let you have that one. I'll retweet it.
Well, what I did find funny about it though was even though it was supposed to be like California, it was actually filmed in London and Cape Town, South Africa. It wasn't filmed anywhere near America, so that's what I found interesting.
I always find it weird when you hear things like that. It's filmed in London and Cape Town.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not like those places are down the road from each other. I guess they just shoot all their scenes and go shut up shop and like let's go down to Africa to
think
film
the
the
grim
rest.
bit, in that grim club, I reckon that was probably London. And the rest of it.
Oh, right. Not the beaches and the yeah.
Parts of that club reminded me of a place in Glasgow called the Cat House, which is absolutely terrifying. Just like I've only been to it once and it was terrifying. I've got two kind of theories / questions. See the guy that we kept seeing who was like chasing Kelly?
Yes, yeah.
Do you think he was somebody she knew from her real life, maybe like an ex-flame who was also there, or do you think it was just like a random guy that she met there?
I think it was a guy she met there and slept with in the same way that she did Yorkie.
Yeah.
And he's just got.
Be interesting to know if she actually did know him though.
Yeah.
And she was just trying to run away from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought because I think she was married for 40 odd years, wasn't she?
Childhood sweetheart.
Yeah, there is that because he did say something to her like when he was saying to Yorkie, she goes through time, she was in the 80s, 90s, 2002. He goes, she's worth it, isn't she? And that kind of made you think that, maybe had he been pining for her.
The other one was, see Kelly's house?
Yes.
How does she keep going back to the same house? Does she put like a rental on it? Like, is she, what I mean?
Like a digital reservation, yeah.
Yeah. How does ownership work there?
DLC, you've got to get enough in-game credit. Yeah.
The first time they spent the night together, didn't they wake up in daylight, or did they wake up?
No.
Did they not? Did they just disappear at midnight?
Yeah. They said it's nearly time. I think the clock was 11:59, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
There was so many clues when you think about it, because the amount of times they kept saying time's almost up, because it made the guy seem just really like intense and like really forward. He's up, almost time up. Like,
yeah.
It was really kind of in the bit. There was the bit at the very start when Yorkie is watching. Is it the game? And there's a car crash in the game, and she gets really like triggered by it.
Yeah, that's a big one I had. I was saving that till the end, but yeah, Outrun. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I was thinking if neither of you had said that, but yeah, great game as
And
well, by the
It's
way.
only because I watched it this morning. It's quite fresh in my head.
I was going to say, there's also that mention I kind of mentioned earlier was when she was trying to hide from that guy. It's like, I've got 6 months to live, which is, when
Yeah.
people say things like that and joke about death, you think you shouldn't joke about stuff like that. But actually, it probably had a lot of hints of truth of it when you kind of look back on, when you circle
Yeah.
back round.
But like you said, the point where they were on the roof and they was talking about it and tourists and how many people did, it's because you could, like they were doing, you could trial it, couldn't you? So the tourists and were actually then the people who were alive and trying it rather than the locals, as it were. So that was
Yeah,
a good twist on that. The other thing for me was, Dan, and you said it literally right at the start, that when it starts, Yorkie looks so out of place. It's almost like she's in normal clothing compared to everyone else, and that also was a good thing to show that she was new there, that she'd not been there before. But you wouldn't know that. You think she was just maybe someone who's moved, from out of town, like Danny LaRusso in The Karate Kid. He's moved across to another town and doesn't fit in. Yeah,
Nice link there.
yeah. There you go. Yeah,
I thought like she comes across as just quite awkward and shy at first, but she's really awkward and shy because she's not probably socialized in 40 years.
yeah.
So like, there's that point as well.
if you think what changes in 40 years, even from us, we go back to 83, no internet, no PlayStation, no Xbox, no cell phones, a lot changes in decade, let alone 40 years. So yeah, she'll be a totally different person. Like I said, she probably is childlike in that sense.
Yeah,
I There was also the original script, I think, was actually going to be about a heterosexual couple and had a sad ending. But the
yeah.
final version, I think he changed it because I think especially he said it in 1987. I don't think it was ever explicitly said what year it was in because the same-sex marriage still wasn't legal then. So I think that's why he changed it to that to make that even more of an impactful.
Yeah, I guess when you think about that is, LGBTQ plus representation there is a lot different to what it is when those two ladies were living their youth, right? It would have been very much not a thing or frowned upon, or so it almost kind of made the story a little bit more powerful. I felt with the fact it was a gay couple rather than a heterosexual one.
It's quite a scary thought. See, like you're going like they always seem to be out on the town in the episode, and like you just don't know who anybody is. Like they could be any age. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like everyone's wearing a mask essentially.
Yeah,
Do you know what I find funny though? I'm at an age now where I much prefer like watching a movie on the couch rather than going
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Like, if I went to San Junipero, I'd be sitting at the beach having like a cocktail. I wouldn't
yeah,
be out clubbing.
yeah,
How could you be bothered? Like, I get Yorkie. She's living her 20s
yeah.
yeah.
at that point. But Kelly, it's like she should be
Yeah, she should be
a
done,
bingo or
shouldn't she?
something.
She's past that point. But it's also is the other thing as well. As time goes on, you're inevitably going to start meeting your great grandchildren and your great great grandchildren. You're going to start seeing all your relatives, distant relatives, start coming into this place as the same age as you.
With some Back to the Future potential there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Apparently, there was an interesting theory that was put to Brooker on Reddit that Kelly at the end wasn't actually there, that she was simulated for Yorkie's benefit. But he shut that down straight away. He said, wrong. They're together. They're the happiest ending imaginable. End of. So there is an element of that. If you are in a quote computer system, who knows who takes over that company? We've seen rich people take over tech companies and change the way they work fundamentally. So how do you know that? Yeah, you're living in a utopia now, but next week it could turn into something disastrous because someone turns over and wants to monetize it or change the way it works.
Bring back the blue bird.
Not saying anything, but if that's what you wanted to infer from my comments, yeah,
It's interesting though because like Kelly, see at the end of the episode, they showed her gravestone, didn't they, or at least her name
yes,
on the
yeah,
bottom of the gravestone, which got me thinking what you were saying. Like, did she maybe just go as a like a tourist again and then leave? Like, are we? Do we definitely know she stayed forever, or are we just led to believe that?
Well, he's saying that they are together forever.
I kind of wish they weren't.
Do you know the end that you just described, where they've put in a computer generated Kelly to give Yorkie her happy ending, and then Kelly kind of passes away and kind of then is not reunited, but is now at peace with her husband and her daughter. I feel like that would be a better ending. I think one's at peace and one's happy, and I think that would be more. I think I would have liked that better.
And again, how you want to look at it as well is by doing what she's done, she is then saying that, because the husband obviously kind of wanted to be with the daughter. So she's saying that there is nothing else. There is nothing after. That's why she chose to stay in San Junipero. So, she's
Yeah.
then also saying what the husband did was completely the wrong decision because there isn't
Yeah.
anything.
I think it's funny that this is considered like the happiest Black Mirror episode when it's so tragic as well.
It was very emotional at the end. Like I said, that scene you allude to where they have the argument on the beach, I think it's brilliant and it's tragic and it's brilliant. But on that, they keep calling it the happiest or one of the most happy, lighter in tone. But if Charlie Brooker had his way, it wouldn't have been, because apparently there was a scene that was cut out of it where they visit a kindergarten full of children who had died, but it was deemed to be too sad to leave in, so they took it out.
That just sounds horrible. Also, you said the director was the same as Be Right Back, and that's that. Although it's again sad, it is really funny as well. I love that one where he gets told to leave and he's just standing in the garden like a few meters away and he's like, I can't go any further.
Yeah, he takes it literally.
See, I would compare it to another episode. I don't think it's similar to Be Right Back, although I get why they say that. To me, it's got echoes of White Christmas and the cookie tech, isn't it? That's where I would draw the parallels.
But I guess this is more of a paradise version of that cookie, and that girl's in there in that white room forever, isn't she? And
we talk about the ending, and maybe it was rushed because, again, in the original ending, it was going to end where Kelly and Yorkie meet in the hospital. But Brooker said when he sat down to write it, he was enjoying it so much, he thought, no, I'm going to keep going. He then conceived of Yorkie's euthanasia and expanding on Kelly's backstory. And the actual ending came about when Brooker heard Heaven is a Place on Earth off a playlist while writing a script and wanted to license the song. After listening to the song and lyrics several times, he came to the final shot that shows a bank of computer servers with the flashing lights. And another unused idea for the ending had the audience see Kelly and Yorkie in different eras, such as the 20s.
Did you see what one of the main inspirations was for this episode? It was the concept of nostalgia therapy in older people, like letting them relive their youth. Like, I need nostalgia therapy now. Like I long for the 90s all the time. See, when we're doing the football podcast, all we talk about is the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah.
That's when football used to be good, though.
But what I would say, though, and there's just one more thing I've got of note here. He said the episode contains hints leading up to reveal. For example, girlfriend in a coma and the use of the arcade games like Time Crisis and the House of the Dead. More overtly, Yorkie reacts to seeing a car accident that, Colin, I think that you brought up. An element that Brooker was surprised was not picked up by viewers earlier, he said about that one. And a factor considered during the editing process was how overt the hint should be. Annabelle Jones said that there may be visual signifiers that you thought were going to work and didn't, so you need more exposition. And I guess that's always a fine line, isn't it, by wanting to leave hints that aren't overly obvious. But it's like the classic Sixth Sense, isn't it? That once you see the ending, you kind of want to see the episode again because you want to see, oh, yeah, that's what that meant. And then that's what that meant. I thought it was a good episode.
So you guys had the conversation with on Twitter, I think it was, about Inside Number 9. I'm sure, was it us?
I think I heard it mentioned on one of your shows.
Yes, yeah, we have had that conversation, yeah.
And I'm tempted because that's another anthology series, isn't it? But I've not seen any episodes of that.
I haven't watched it all, but it is really good. It's like my friend that got me into Black Mirror, he described it as, he basically said it's more consistent than Black Mirror, but Black Mirror has higher highs, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Have you seen it, Dan, Inside Number 9?
No, never seen it.
Worth a watch.
What else did I have before we wrap up? Oh, the other interesting thing is, and it's a classic thing about streaming, is the songs. Each song had to be cleared for about 15 years for Netflix. So after 15 years, the likelihood is they'll have to be replaced. So I just don't see it work necessarily. I mean, you've seen it if you watch a show like Scrubs, if you got the DVDs, the soundtrack when you're watching it on streaming, depending on which I think platforms got it, the music can be different.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they haven't licensed the songs for streaming.
I think how much the music artists will have benefited from. Like, who'd heard of Laszlo Bain before Scrubs?
Yeah. Okay, before we start getting into the summing up then, Colin, was there anything else about the episode itself that hasn't been called out?
I had one final thought because I find you're probably the same when you do the reviews. It's like you've got random thoughts just bouncing about your head
Yeah.
for like an hour. I really like the way they kind of peeled back the mystery. Like they didn't just give you it all at once. They
Yeah.
gave you the fact that people were dead, that she was dying, that you find out she's in a coma. Like I felt like it was really well paced and that you found something important out every 10 minutes or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
I thought it was done well like that.
As I said, as I discussed, I really like that bit where she says, "How many of them do you think they were dead?" Because I was obviously I was making notes at the same time, and as I listened to that, I was like, "Did I hear that right? I should go back and check if that's exactly what she said." But it's the big clue, isn't it? And I guess it's still at that point, it was a bit of a surprise. Still, I think maybe I was just a bit not seeing it.
One of the things that annoys me, and I'll come on to the other thing in my scoring, I don't think it's giving away what year the present time was, and I wanted to know because you just got the vibe. Obviously, they've got this technology now, so it's got to be futuristic. And you know, when Kelly went to the hospital to see Yorkie, it was in some sort of fancy-looking futuristic car, right? So they're obviously in the future. I kind of just wanted to know what time zone they were in,
Yeah,
because when that guy said, "Oh, go to she's even been in 2002," I kind of got the impression that maybe that was in the future and 87 was the year they were in and that's why they were there.
yeah.
But you saw that futuristic looking car
Yeah,
and
it's a shame they never really revealed that, isn't it? Because they did make it really futuristic, didn't they, when they were in that facility?
You'll just never know.
no, exactly. And we keep saying that you shouldn't know all the time, I guess. Right, so let's do scores. Dan, let's start with you first and then we'll come to Colin.
I was interested to see what you. I want to know how much you're going to roll back from the 10 out of 10 you
Colin,
gave it for a
there's a
few
theme
minutes
here.
afterwards.
I always ask Dan to do his score first. There's a common theme there. But Dan, you go
You
first.
do 1, 2, 3 number.
Yeah, we should.
No,
Yeah,
it's my podcast. It's like the equivalent of it's my football. It's my podcast. He goes first.
I'm gonna go 8.5.
8.5. Okay. Colin, what's your score?
9.5.
Big score.
What was the detractor of the 0.5?
God, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Kelly shouldn't have went with Yorkie. She should have stayed loyal to her family.
Yeah, I think if they'd done that, I think I would have gone higher.
But the reason why I didn't go 9 or 8.5 was, even though I didn't like the decision, as we spoke about, the argument / discussion was so good that I don't think I could put it anywhere below a 9.
Yeah,
I'll go
fair enough.
9.5.
I'm actually going for 9.6.
Oh, is that your top one?
It is. And the reason being 9.6 is I wanted it to be my top one. 9.5 actually would have made it top, but I wanted to nudge a bit further. I really enjoyed this episode. I still think it's one of the better ones because for me, it fits at what I see a Black Mirror episode as. So has it got the tech? Yes. Is there the moral sort of dilemmas and moral conundrums in it? Yes. And I've said, just the soundtrack was bloody awesome. And like I said, it was great. Now, for me, the reason why Dan I rode back from the 10 is exactly that. That felt really rushed, and I didn't like how they have the argument. She calls herself selfish, goes, "I was married for 49 years. All the boredom, all the laughter, all the love, all the tears, isn't that? You don't know what that means." And then, yeah, she changed her mind to go in there. And it just felt like that detracted from that powerful scene. And it's like, oh, yeah, no, it's fine. Actually, I will go in there.
It didn't really show her have that powerful moment where she changed her mind. She just turned up as well. If they'd done something about that, maybe she went and visited her family's grave and kind of asked for forgiveness or something along those lines. But it was just, you're right, she had that powerful moment, and all of a sudden she turns up. They could have made that, I guess they could have extended it by about 20 minutes explaining that, couldn't they?
She's just going to feel guilty for eternity now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or maybe she didn't go in there and Yorkie becomes the Kelly of San Junipero because she's the fun-loving one because she's got a new, her new sort of outlook. So, yeah, that was why I took some points off it because I just thought that took away from that moment. But I just thought the two leads as well, they were just fantastic. I thought they were really good on screen together, and I thought they were both great.
What else is Mackenzie Davis in? I feel like I recognise her from something else, but I can't think what it is.
Was it she in the Terminator, the most recent Terminator film? I can't remember what it was
Do you
called.
ever do that? But in reality, I just remember her from this. But it's because I haven't watched it in a while.
I think she was in, is it Dark Fate or whatever, Terminator, the most recent
Yeah,
Terminator.
she's in Terminator Dark Fate. She was in Blade Runner, The Turning, Bombshell as well. She's been in a few things. But I don't know how big of parts, yeah. The Martian.
She reminds me a bit of what's her name? Is it Kirsten Wiig out of Bridesmaids, out of Paul?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she does look a bit like
How
Yeah.
just because she the whole glasses, then no glasses, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so I thought the two leads as well were great. So no, I really, really, really enjoyed it. And just I can't keep saying how great the soundtrack was. And spotting the games like Dan. Yeah, I was spotting the games and writing them down as well.
Oh, I love Bubble Bobble when I was younger. That's a big part of my childhood playing that game. So it's nice to have it on there. I just thought of a what if. What if technology allowed them to retrospectively put people in there? They worked out a way to put a husband and a child into San Junipero. That's a whole new spin-off episode right there.
Was there not talk of a sequel to this at some point? It's also not happened, but I'm sure it was mentioned that there could have been.
They could definitely do spin-offs, couldn't they?
Can I do a really shameless plug?
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. We're all for it.
Really shameless. We did it, me, Paul, and James, who wasn't a main part of the channel then, but he is now. We did a ranking of our top 10 favourite episodes. I don't know if you've watched it, but you might find it of interest to see what the top 10 was.
See, I don't want to listen to it till we've done this. That's the thing, because I don't want it clouding.
Save it till the end.
So I know you said it, and I will do it because I would love to do a comparison, and maybe we do another crossover then, because I would like to. At some point, I was going to force Dan to do the top 10 episodes of all the series, but he doesn't know that yet. And so maybe we do a join up. I was just disappointed not to see the Prime Minister from the first episode mentioned in this one, because he's been popping up.
First episode, he hasn't been plugged, isn't it? It's disappointing.
Especially as it was 1987 in San Junipero. It might have been nice to see, up and coming political candidate.
Yeah.
Did you say you've not watched the new season yet?
I've not watched the new one. Dan, you have, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched 3 out of 6. No, 3 out of 5. How many are there? 5. I've watched 3 of them.
Yeah.
I've watched apparently the good ones. The good 3 out of 5, apparently.
Yeah. But I think the first one is the best of that series.
I like the third one with
what's the third one?
Jesse from Breaking Bad.
Yes, that is a good episode.
No spoilers.
That's a good episode.
You can catch that in about
He's
15 episodes
he's
time.
literally he's the picture for Black Mirror on Netflix, so you kind of know he's in it.
Yeah. No, I know he's in it because they often put Salma Hayek on it as well, don't they? On the main screen as well. Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Colin. I hope you enjoyed that. Do you want to just shout out your socials again in your podcast where we can hear you?
So we're Seismic Cinema, but we've also got Seismic Soccer. I won't go into the rest of it, but you can find us on all the usual social media platforms, and we're on YouTube, Spotify under Seismic Cinema. And next up for us is it's our 100th episode next week.
Oh, congratulations!
Well done.
We're going to critique the Star Wars sequels as a celebration.
Oh, good luck on that. Yeah. That's never been divisive before, has it? So
No, we've only ever reviewed Rogue One as part of an Andor preview. We've never actually reviewed any other film.
Okay, okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. Anyone listening, if you're not already, go check out Seismic Cinema and Seismic Soccer, and I'll stick the links in the show notes. From me and Dan. Dan, anything else you want to say before we go?
No, just thanks to Colin for coming on.
Well, thanks for having us.
And speak to you all next week.
Next week, we are going to be doing Men Against Fire, which I don't remember. So, yeah.
For sometimes these titles, I can't
Yeah.
remember what episodes they relate to, so I'm sure I've seen it, but we'll see.
Colin, as I said, thank you for coming on. Depending on, like I said at the start, I'm using a new platform. It all depends if I actually get the audio off this and able to get anything out of this. Otherwise, we might have to redo this again, which feels like it would be a good Black Mirror episode in its own right. So I hope you can remember everything you've said for a rerun.
Sure. If not, I could just watch the episode again. I'll come back.
All right, and yeah, we'll catch you next time for the next episode in Black Mirror.
2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, take what we got, 'cause you